I didn't, but my show did, but that's
Yes,
like me
Mary.
getting nominated, isn't it?
Get out of my way.
Hey, Mary, congratulations.
Oh, Murray, you too.
What does it take for a sitcom to change television forever? Surprisingly, The Mary Tyler Moore Show almost never got the chance. Before it became one of the most beloved comedies of all time, it survived a disastrous pilot, skeptical network executives, and behind-the-scenes moments that nearly changed its future. Some of those stories are unexpected, some are downright strange, and all of them helped shape television history. From bizarre production moments to unforgettable casting decisions and a surprising connection to The Simpsons, here are 13 weird behind-the-scenes facts you probably never knew about The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Number 13. The funeral episode that changed sitcom history. Let's begin with an episode that's still considered one of the greatest sitcom episodes ever produced. In 1975, The Mary Tyler Moore Show accomplished something television rarely attempts. It made audiences laugh through a funeral. That may sound impossible, but Chuckles Bites the Dust became one of the most celebrated episodes in sitcom history. The story centers on Chuckles the Clown, who dies after dressing as Peter Peanut for a parade and being attacked by an elephant. It's absurd, tragic, and somehow incredibly funny. The real genius, though, wasn't the bizarre premise. It was Mary's reaction. Throughout the funeral, Mary Richards struggles to stay composed while everyone around her behaves with complete seriousness. The longer she tries not to laugh, the harder it becomes. It's an honest, painfully relatable moment that anyone who's ever laughed at the wrong time immediately understands. The inspiration came from writer David Lloyd, who had read about a real funeral where mourners couldn't stop laughing because of the strange circumstances surrounding the person's death. He realized there was something universally human about those awkward moments when emotions refused to cooperate. Mary Tyler Moore wasn't immediately sold on the idea. She worried audiences would think the episode was making fun of death itself. Director Joan Darling encouraged her to trust the script, explaining that the comedy wasn't about the funeral. It was about human nature. She was absolutely right. The episode won David Lloyd an Emmy for Outstanding Writing and remains a masterclass in sitcom storytelling nearly 50 years later. As unforgettable as that episode became, the biggest surprise is that the show almost never made it to television at all. Number 12. The pilot that almost ended before it began. Looking at the show's success today, it's hard to believe it nearly stumbled out of the gate. The very first pilot taping was a complete mess. Earlier that day, a bomb threat forced everyone to evacuate the studio. Although it turned out to be a false alarm, the audience returned feeling nervous instead of excited. Not exactly the energy you want for filming a comedy. Then, the air conditioning stopped working. The studio quickly became unbearably hot, leaving the cast, crew, and nearly 200 audience members sweating through the performance. To make matters worse, the television cameras were so large they blocked much of the audience's view. Instead of watching the actors directly, many people had to follow the show on small monitors. The laughs were almost non-existent. Early test audiences questioned why Mary was still single in her 30s and found several characters difficult to connect with. Rhoda, in particular, received some of the harshest criticism. Fortunately, the producers didn't overreact. Instead, they carefully studied the audience's feedback and made a few smart changes before filming again. One of the biggest improvements involved giving Phyllis's young daughter, Bess, scenes showing genuine affection for Rhoda. If an innocent child adored her, viewers were far more likely to do the same. The strategy worked perfectly. Rhoda went from being one of the least liked characters in the pilot to becoming one of television's biggest breakout stars, eventually earning her own successful spin-off series. Saving the pilot was only the beginning. Convincing CBS to believe in Mary Richards proved even harder. Number 11. The character CBS never wanted. It's hard to imagine Mary Richards any other way. Independent, confident, starting over on her own. But that wasn't the original plan. When creators James L. Brooks and Alan Burns first pitched the series, Mary was supposed to be divorced. It was a realistic story about a woman rebuilding her life after a failed marriage. CBS immediately rejected the idea. According to Alan Burns, network executives believed American audiences simply weren't ready for a divorced woman to headline a sitcom. Even stranger, their research supposedly claimed viewers disliked people from New York, Jewish characters, and Moustaches. Yes, moustaches. The network's biggest concern, however, was Mary Tyler Moore herself. Millions of viewers still associated her with Laura Petrie from The Dick Van Dyke Show. CBS worried audiences would assume Laura had divorced Rob Petrie, making it difficult for viewers to separate the two characters. So the writers found another solution. Instead of being divorced, Mary had spent years supporting her boyfriend through medical school. Once he became a doctor, he left her. Later, he returned asking her to move with him, not as his wife, but as his mistress. Mary refused. That single decision quietly defined everything audiences would come to admire about her. She wasn't starting over because someone abandoned her. She was starting over because she chose to respect herself. Ironically, CBS's biggest objection helped create Mary's greatest strength. But the show's most memorable surprise came years later. Number 10. The finale that nobody planned. Great television finales are rare. Truly unforgettable ones are even rarer. When the Mary Tyler Moore Show reached its final episode, viewers watched almost everyone at WJM lose their jobs. Everyone except Ted Baxter, the least competent member of the newsroom. It was funny. It was heartbreaking. And then came one of television's most iconic moments. The famous group hug was written into the script. Everything that happened afterward wasn't. During rehearsal, the cast wondered how they should break apart from the embrace. Georgia Engel looked across the set, noticed a box of tissues sitting on a nearby desk, and jokingly suggested they stay wrapped together while shuffling sideways to grab it. James L. Brooks immediately laughed. Do it. The cast awkwardly moved across the newsroom as one giant huddle, creating a visual gag that instantly became television history. As the characters slowly walked out together, singing an old marching song, Mary Richards stayed behind for just a moment. She looked around the newsroom one last time, turned off the lights, closed the door, and quietly walked away. No dramatic speech, no grand farewell. Just one simple goodbye that still gives longtime fans chills. But the show's next breakthrough came from just a single line of dialogue. Number 9. The line that quietly changed television. Sometimes, television history is made without anyone realizing it. One of the show's most groundbreaking moments lasted only a few seconds, and most viewers probably didn't think twice about it. In a 1972 episode called You've Got a Friend, Mary's parents are visiting her apartment when her mother casually says, "Don't forget to take your pill." Then something unexpected happens. Both Mary and her father answer, "I won't." It's a tiny exchange, but television historians have long pointed to it as one of the earliest, and possibly the first, subtle references to birth control on a primetime sitcom. What's remarkable isn't just the topic, it's how casually it was handled. There was no dramatic music, no shocked reactions, and no lengthy discussion. The writers treated it like any ordinary part of everyday life, which made the moment even more powerful. Writer Treva Silverman later explained that the line worked because it belonged to Mary Richards. She represented responsibility, independence, and maturity. If Mary treated something as perfectly normal, audiences were more likely to see it that way too. That wasn't the only time the people behind the show quietly stood for something bigger. Number 8. The moment the entire set stood together. Every television production has stories about practical jokes and funny moments behind the scenes. This story says something much more meaningful. During a promotional photo shoot, photographer John Dominis turned to actor John Amos, who played weatherman Gordie Howard, and reportedly told him to smile so people could see his teeth and know who he was. The room immediately fell silent. Nobody laughed, nobody brushed it off. The cast and crew simply made it clear that the remark wasn't acceptable. According to later accounts, the photographer never returned to work on the show. John Amos often spoke about how respected he felt while working on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He praised creators James L. Brooks and Alan Burns for refusing to rely on racial stereotypes or cheap jokes. Gordie Howard wasn't written as a stereotype. He was written as a capable television professional who happened to be black. That may not sound revolutionary today, but in the early 1970s, it absolutely was. It's one of those behind-the-scenes moments that tells you as much about the people making the show as the scripts themselves. Not every memorable moment behind the scenes was so serious. Number 7. The dinner that set the tone. Before the cameras ever rolled, the cast learned something important about Cloris Leachman. She was completely unforgettable. During one of the first cast dinners, everyone was settling into their seats when Leachman suddenly announced she wasn't sitting next to Gavin MacLeod. The room got quiet. Then she explained why. Years earlier, the two had appeared together in the western The Road West. During one scene, MacLeod's character had to slap hers. Leachman always insisted he hit her harder than necessary. MacLeod remembered things a little differently. Whether it was a genuine grudge or part of Leachman's legendary sense of humor, no one could say for sure. But instead of making the evening awkward, she somehow turned the story into everyone's first big laugh. That's exactly what made Cloris Leachman so special. She had an incredible ability to find comedy almost anywhere. MacLeod later looked back on the moment with great affection, calling her one of the finest actresses he'd ever worked with. Interestingly, that playful tension seemed to carry over onto the screen. Their characters, Phyllis and Murray, always shared a unique chemistry that felt completely natural. The laughs came easily, but the show wasn't afraid to tackle serious issues next. Number 6. When Mary asked the question, everyone was thinking. Today, conversations about equal pay happen all the time. In 1972, they were almost unheard of on television. One of the series' boldest episodes begins when Mary discovers she's making $50 less each week than the man who previously held her job. Instead of quietly accepting it, she walks straight into Lou Grant's office and asks the obvious question. If we're doing the same work, why aren't we earning the same salary? Lou doesn't argue that she's less qualified. In fact, he admits she's doing an excellent job. His explanation reflects the thinking of the era. The previous employee had a family to support. Mary calmly points out something that still resonates today. My responsibilities are exactly the same. The episode doesn't end with a perfect Hollywood victory. Mary negotiates a raise, but it's only about half of what she requested. That realistic ending is part of what made the story so powerful. The writers weren't pretending problems like this could be solved overnight. They were showing viewers just how difficult those conversations really were. More than 50 years later, the episode still feels remarkably relevant, proving that The Mary Tyler Moore Show wasn't just changing television, it was quietly redefining it. And that spirit of growth extended beyond its storytelling, even finding its way into one of television's most unforgettable theme songs. But while the series tackled serious issues with confidence, it also managed to create one of the most memorable television theme songs ever written. Number 5. The theme song that changed with Mary. A great TV theme song does more than get stuck in your head. It tells a story, and few did it better than Love Is All Around. Songwriter Sonny Curtis wrote the theme in a single afternoon after receiving a brief description of the new series. By the end of the day, he had already played it for producer James L. Brooks. But here's the part most fans don't know. The song actually changed because Mary Richards changed. In the first season, Mary was still figuring out her new life. She just moved to Minneapolis, started a new job, and was learning to stand on her own. That uncertainty was reflected in the lyrics. You might just make it after all. That one word, might, said everything. It suggested hope, but not certainty. By the second season, however, Mary had grown more confident. She had found her place, built strong friendships, and proved she could succeed on her own. So the producers updated the song. Now the lyrics proudly declared, "You're gonna make it after all." One tiny change transformed the entire message. The song wasn't asking if Mary would succeed anymore. It was celebrating the fact that she already had. That attention to detail helped make television history. Number 4. The Emmy record that stood for 25 years. Winning one Emmy is a dream for most television shows. The Mary Tyler Moore Show won 29. Over its 7-season run, the series earned 67 Primetime Emmy nominations and took home 29 awards, making it one of the most decorated sitcoms in television history. Even more impressive, that record stood untouched for 25 years. It wasn't until Frasier finally surpassed it in 2002 that another sitcom claimed more Emmy wins. The series also finished stronger than almost any comedy before it. Rather than fading in its later seasons, it won Outstanding Comedy Series 3 consecutive years, from 1975 through 1977. The cast was equally remarkable. Mary Tyler Moore won 3 Emmys for playing Mary Richards. Ed Asner earned 3 for Lou Grant. Valerie Harper won 3 consecutive Supporting Actress awards before winning again for Rhoda. Ted Knight, Cloris Leachman, and Betty White all received Emmy recognition for their unforgettable performances. The awards weren't simply trophies, they confirmed what audiences already knew. This wasn't just another successful sitcom, it had become one of television's defining classics. Number 3. The character who was never supposed to stay. Sometimes the best television characters are the ones nobody expected to keep around. That was exactly the case with Sue Ann Nivens. Originally, the role was written as a one-time guest appearance. Sue Ann was supposed to be a cheerful television homemaker whose sweet smile concealed a razor-sharp personality. The casting notes reportedly described her as an icky, sweet Betty White type. Eventually, someone asked the obvious question, why not cast Betty White herself? The decision turned out to be brilliant. White walked onto the set and instantly made Sue Ann unforgettable. She wasn't mean for the sake of being mean. She genuinely believed she was the warmest, kindest person in every room, even while quietly delivering some of the show's funniest insults. As soon as filming ended, James L. Brooks handed Betty White a simple note. Don't make too many plans. She understood exactly what he meant. Instead of appearing once, Sue Ann returned again and again before eventually joining the regular cast. By the time the series ended, Betty White had appeared in 45 episodes and created one of television's most beloved comedy characters. Not bad for someone who wasn't supposed to come back. Number 2. The audition that almost cost Ed Asner everything. Today, Lou Grant is one of television's most iconic characters, but Ed Asner almost never played him. Several well-known actors, including Jack Klugman, Gavin MacLeod, and Shelley Berman, were considered before Asner finally received an audition. There was just one problem. Asner wasn't known for comedy. His first audition reflected exactly that. He delivered the lines with the intensity of a courtroom drama, giving a powerful performance, but not a particularly funny one. When the reading ended, Asner reportedly looked at the producers and asked with a smile, "Yeah, but was it funny?" Fortunately, they invited him back. The second audition was completely different. Instead of playing Lou as an intimidating boss, Asner discovered the humor hidden beneath the character's tough exterior. Suddenly, everything clicked. Lou Grant became the gruff editor everyone feared, but also respected. Then came the line audiences still quote more than 50 years later. "You've got spunk." Mary smiled proudly. Lou paused. "I hate spunk." From that moment on, nobody could imagine anyone else playing Lou Grant. But James L. Brooks's greatest television legacy was still unfolding. Number 1. The surprising connection to The Simpsons. Here's a connection that surprises even longtime fans. At first glance, The Mary Tyler Moore Show and The Simpsons seem to have absolutely nothing in common. One is a classic newsroom sitcom. The other is an animated comedy about a yellow family living in Springfield, but they share something incredibly important. James L. Brooks. After helping create The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Brooks went on to develop The Simpsons with Matt Groening and Sam Simon. He also brought familiar faces along the way. Julie Kavner, who played Brenda in the Rhoda spin-off, later became the voice of Marge Simpson. Ed Asner eventually guest-starred on The Simpsons. Valerie Harper appeared as well. Even Sam Simon had worked on another James L. Brooks production before joining the series. Looking back, you can see how Brooks carried the same character-driven storytelling from one generation of television to the next. The settings were different, the characters were different, but the heart was surprisingly familiar. It's a reminder that television's greatest ideas rarely disappear, they simply evolve. More than 50 years later, The Mary Tyler Moore Show continues to prove that great television never goes out of style. It changed sitcoms, launched unforgettable careers, and left behind stories that are just as entertaining as the episodes themselves. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip back to WJM, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and join us next time for another look behind television's greatest classics.